Winston here for the Pacifica Historical Society, host of the weekly show Footprints of Pacifica, where we explore and discover the lure and the lore of lovely Pacifica, its character and its characters. The focus of this show is on the statue of Pacifica. Why do we have such a statue, an 8-foot replica at City Hall, the council chambers in Pacifica? Where did it come from? How was it created? Stay tuned and you'll hear that from our guest, Bill Chamberlain, who is the director of Pacifica Statue 2, Project Pacifica Statue 2. What do you call it, Bill?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me tonight, Frank. It's called the Pacifica 2 Project.
Okay, well,
and
go ahead, please.
The purpose of it is to bring back the original 80-foot statue called the Pacifica, which was the center point for the 1939-40 World's Fair and was a beautiful sculpture created by a gentleman named Ralph Stackpole that unfortunately after the fair was torn down when the Treasure Island became a naval base.
And Treasure Island was the host of the fairgrounds.
Treasure Island was actually built to host the 1939-40 World's Fair with the understanding that it was to be the San Francisco International Airport.
You mean the Treasure Island we know today didn't exist before the fair?
No, it didn't.
Well, what was there and how did it get its name?
Well, it sort of goes back to Gaspar de Portola.
Our hometown hero.
Your hometown hero who landed first in Pacifica here looking for San Francisco Bay. He did find San Francisco Bay, and he did find a small island named Yerba Buena, which at the moment he called El Alcatraz.
Okay.
And near it were some very dangerous shoals underneath the water. They knew that at the time. Later, through a series of additional explorers and cartographers, they determined that it really was to be called Yerba Buena, and Alcatraz was a little bit north on another location.
And totally separate.
Totally separate and on the other side of the shoals.
Okay.
But in the 1930s, San Francisco was able to put together a program in conjunction with Franklin Delano Roosevelt to build the largest man-made island in the world at the time, 440 acres, to cover the shoals and to celebrate completion of the 2 bridges and the coming end of the Depression.
What was going to be on Treasure Island when they built it, if they restored it in the 28th and 30, or did it take that long to build it?
Well, it was actually built starting approximately 1935 and 36. It was the largest combined construction of so many entities: the Works Project Association, the federal government, the state government, the city government, local governments, but the Army Corps of Engineers brought it in under budget and ahead of schedule. But it got its name because during the construction of the island, it was rumored that there was gold in the silt and the land that was being filled in. And it was determined by Herbert Hoover and a crew that there was gold there, but certainly not enough to mine, but the name Treasure Island stuck.
And with Treasure Island, they then created the fair, and quickly, what was the function of the theme of the fair? And then we'll have a roll-in describing or showing some of those scenes.
Well, the theme of the fair was Pacific unity and peace. Pan American Airways had made it their base, and it was supposed to represent a coalition of Pacific countries and South American countries, and the architecture was to represent that because it was to come from several areas.
Okay, now we'll have a roll-in of that, and in it we'll see the statue that you described of Pacifica, and then come back and chat some more about what we're going to do with it.
Terrific.
That was very interesting, and you weren't there. I happened to be at the World's Fair, but all I remember is I couldn't get into the Sally Rand show, and I got lost there a couple of times. And then I enjoyed getting lost because I could hear my name over the loudspeaker. Well, Frank Winston, please show up. And so, but more things happened there, particularly the Billy Rose Aquacade was one of the features. You want to tell us about the man who is now responsible for the project and his role there?
Well, Frank, there were so many interesting things happen at the fair. As you saw from the video, there was a Aquacade clip in there. And even though the purpose of the island ultimately was to become the San Francisco International Airport, during the 2 years the fair ran, it brought an enormous amount of entertainment and acts together. My friend Sal DeGuarda, who's heading the project, was actually a swimmer in the Billy Rose Aquacade during the 1940s section of the fair when the Aquacade came west. And he swam with Esther Williams, he swam with Johnny Weissmuller and several other areas.
The Tarzan man.
Yes, in fact, Sal went on to quite a successful career in Hollywood as an actor and a stuntman, and he was to be a double for Johnny Weissmuller, and he was the second runner-up for Weissmuller's replacement as a Tarzan. In addition to spending a year with Mae West, he had a very colorful career, we would say it, and ultimately was inducted in the Stuntman Hall of Fame.
Well, Sal also had some tie-in to the Pacifica statue that was there, and it meant something to him then and even more now. Tell us about that role.
Sal developed a tremendous love and passion for the statue and what it meant to all the people that worked on the island, that entertained there, that had jobs and careers start there. And to hear him talk about it is very heartwarming. Every night he would go by that statue and look at it, and he felt that he had a connection to it. He really, really felt that this statue was something that was important to his life then, and it continued to be important. And when he addressed the city council here in 2005 at Pacifica, that was his firm commitment to build the replicas and bring back the 80-foot statue to the island before he passed away.
So the statue is the project to be built and to be restored at TI.
Yes, it is.
Okay, now, how's that project at this point? What's being developed?
Well, at this point, we've installed the two 8-foot replicas, one here at the City of Pacifica and the other at the City College of San Francisco, where it's in the garden next to the Diego Rivera Theater, which, as it turned out, Sal was photographed for inclusion in the Diego Rivera mural that was created for the World's Fair and is now over at the City College.
Let's talk about that for a second, because it was created in one of the hangars there. It took, what, 3 or 4 months to create the mural?
Oh, yes. It was created in one of the hangars that was originally built to house the Pan American clipper ships. And Diego Rivera was brought up here by Timothy Pfluger, and he was over there painting his mural. And he sent a photographer over to take a picture of Sal and 2 of his friends coming out of the Aquacade pool on an afternoon training session. And they asked him, he said, "Oh, is our picture going to be in the paper?" And the photographer says, "No, you're going to be on a wall." And from that point, later Sal discovered he's the gentleman in the mural that's wearing the white trunks underneath the picture of the diver.
Now, early this year, there was a celebration at City College of that mural, and Diego Rivera's daughter was present for that, and Sal was present. But there was many years where that disappeared. What is the history of that mural that Sal was in?
The history of the mural is one of the more fascinating incidences that I discovered and enjoyed reading about. The mural was actually taken down after the fair, as were many of the arts, and it was packed away in crates. In fact, one of the panels was damaged. And it was shipped over to the City College of San Francisco, because nobody wanted it, where a shed was built around the crates, and for 25 years or more, it remained in those crates next to the men's gymnasium, where students threw baseballs and basketballs against the side of the shed.
Now, we have some images back from the fair, and we're going to take a look at some some of the images and ask you to describe them, if you would.
The original statue was 80 feet tall, and it commanded a position at the end of what they call the Court of Pacifica, which was another beautiful, beautiful outside hallway of statuary and flowers and the Court of Reflections and running from the Tower of the Sun on. And in the evenings, they even had a rainbow of colors that would wash over the statue in a beautiful panorama of colors at night. And you could see it from San Francisco, from the Bay Bridge. The island just lit up like just an incredible fantasy land in the evenings over there. It was probably one of the most gorgeous things you could see if you were in a blimp at that time.
And now that we're going to try to bring it back to the Pacific. Oh, there's another image up there.
Well, our project is to bring the statue back to Treasure Island as part of the history. What you see is it's in front of Building 1, and there was so much interest in the history of the island. Even during the Navy's occupation, volunteers did their best to take care of the statuary and the gardens and things that were left. And our goal is to bring that statue back to the Pacifica, to the Treasure Island as the Pacifica. And our concept is back to the future because the island is going through a change, a metamorphosis, and it's beginning to represent as much hope and peace and unity for the future that it did when it was first originated. And
now,
it is passing from a military installation to another civilian application, and I think it's probably going to be one of the most exciting developments in the Bay Area.
well, now the land is now owned, Treasure Island is a part of the city and county of San Francisco.
Well, it's going to be owned by the city of San Francisco, and they're in the final stages of transition and development of the island and changing the whole infrastructure of it. It has many exciting components to it.
Well, does the Navy still own it? Because we understand that San Francisco has some powers over the use of some of the buildings right now.
Well, yes, they do. The Treasure Island Development Authority is in charge and running it, and
Okay.
the transfer of a base reuse in Navy takes some time, but it's just it's a matter of formality right now more than anything else. What's exciting is what some of the plans show about creating a real future look at urban development in this area that involves everything from greening of the island, sustainability, infrastructure, new technologies, Job Corps applications, and helping people in the community preserve and develop the artistic and the sculpture and all the history that the island represented, including the Navy. The Navy wants to help protect their assets and the assets that were left over from the World's Fair.
Well, now we get into that conflict between the wants of a developer, the wants of a city government, the wants of your project. If you had your druthers and you could go back to the island and place it where you believe it ought to be, you can promote it here. Where would you and Sal like to see the statue?
Our ideal spot for it is right there in front of Building Number 1, which is the main building. It was originally going to be the tower, control tower, and the San Francisco International Airport. It was the home of Pan American Airways. It's on really good solid bedrock, and it would allow the island to again begin attracting people and creating a visual from the San Francisco side. And it's an ideal location for it, although the plans that we were referring to are also different than the original one in the fact that the original one had to be torn down, which was a shame in one respect. Our proposal is to make it as mobile as possible.
Okay, now we have another roll-in that ties into this,
good.
and I'd like to show that to the audience. Please bring it on.
Sweet dream, baby. How long must I dream?
Now, in case you're wondering what the buckle is, he was inducted into the Stuntman's Hall of Fame. That's what the buckle is.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great.
I was John Dexter, but Italians weren't in, so I had to change my name. Sal DeGardi didn't sound good for a cowboy.
so you better wait.
I just want to say welcome to everybody on an amazing thing, another celebration of our 50th anniversary as we've stretched it out to a year and a half, and we're shooting for 2 now. It's always great. Always a good thing. And 2 Miss Pacificans kind of goes with the theme a little bit. But, really, it's an honor for me, an honor for the city to here to accept this statue on really behalf of the city of Pacifica. And it was a statue that Sal DeGarda made, and you were at Treasure Island when the World's Fair was ongoing, right? You were
Right.
swimming in those events. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about that?
They had a Billy Rose Aquacade there, which was a swimming show. Most of the older people will remember Esther Williams. I swam with Esther and Johnny Weissmuller, who was Tarzan at that time. And then during the war, Esther and I toured and entertained the troops doing swim shows. And it was like a life entirely all by itself doing that show. And with the 2 queens, you notice it's Pacifica 2? Because Pacifica 1 was built when Bay Bridge number 1 was built. Bay Bridge 2 is being built, so Pacifica 2 is being built.
Goes by the 2s.
No, that's great. And he's continued that passion on to really recreate the namesake of our town, Pacifica, and in a small way, just kind of, hopefully we'll have a chance to build this into bigger things, I think is your hope, right?
And then the next one's going to City College, and that's the start to build the 80-footer on Treasure Island. Because it takes convincing to some people who are on boards, you know, how...
We're easy compared to some people, San Francisco.
And so it's just a way of the back door going in, and we're doing it. Sure, it's a selfish way to look at it, but it's for everybody's pleasure. And that's how I look at it, and it's a pleasure to me and my legacy doing it.
I don't see it selfish at all. I see it as a wonderful act of kindness, and I want to thank you from the city of Pacifica for bringing this to us tonight and for allowing us all to share in this. Every Monday night, people will come through, and the first thing they're going to see is that statue, and I think of you. So thank you very much for this.
Who wants to help?
Faultless Pacifica, our home, sweet home.
And you can all thank the little statues upstairs, the 3-footers. That was the beginning of this statue, because they loaned me that statue. Little did I know what was going to come from it, but that's what I started with. No, this one, from what I understand, it was a gift from Stagpole to the city. And I think at the time that they named it Pacifica is what my recollection was, that it was given to them then. But that's about all I know about it. And then the city, we found out from our friend we call the incubator baby. She was Koch. She was born down here in Pacifica, and the reason we call her the incubator baby because she was in the incubator at the fair, and she's the one that put us on where this statue was, and that's how we got a hold of the statue here.
Right, it was a real thrill to see the great 8-foot statue, and I hope everybody in town will have a chance to see it soon, and hopefully it'll have a place of honor in the Little Brown Church Museum Center someday when we get it built. We're looking forward to it. It was a thrill to meet Sal, and I want to present him with this, a vision and a mission. Whereas, when Salvador DeGarda first observed Ralph Stackpole's 80-foot sculpture of Pacifica over 50 years ago, he was enchanted with its open hands, welcoming visitors to the 1939-40 Golden Gate International Exposition, the World's Fair at Treasure Island. Little did he forecast that he would later have a mission to restore that tribute and have it resituated at its original home, Treasure Island. And whereas in his current dream, the statue will serve as a welcome beacon to visitors, not only visitors from the Pacific Rim, but all visitors and our locals. And whereas and now, this visionary is leading a campaign to do that. It will bring back a highlight of local history, and whereas Salvador de Garda has chosen to create an 8-foot model of the statue that graces our city seal and present it for permanent display to the Pacifica Historical Society. It will be a prominent part of our museum. And whereas the Pacifica Historical Society is proud to receive and graciously treasures this replica from Sal de Garda personally on this 10th day of March 2008. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you again. This is my legacy in this life. Each and every one of you, what you're doing is leaving a legacy in this city. Mine's just a little taller. But believe me, I'm proud to have done it, pleased to do it, and I got a list tonight that carries me for a while more going forward. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sweet dreams, baby. Sweet dreams, baby. Sweet dreams, baby. Oh, how long must I
We're back in the studio with Bill Chamberlain. I want to comment that when the Historical Society receives it, it's going to put it into its museum, which reminds me that you have an idea for the museum to tie in to the Pacifica statue in the project. Could you mention that to us?
Well, first of all, I think, Frank, you can tell from the video there the amount of passion and commitment that Sal has for this statue and what it represented. It's addictive, and it's just hard to get away from it. And we really feel it's a catalyst. We think that it will bring this coalition together of all the different historical people and pieces in society. And I would love to see the island developed in such a way that there's a true history park on the island, anchored possibly from where the statue is, utilizing Building 1 and that whole section back into the hangars. Because if you think about it, Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave us $2 million for the island. His yacht, the Potomac, is there. The USS Hornet is on the other side. There's an enormous amount of statuary, 19,000 pieces or so in storage, I think. We got another mural over there. So I could see that entire section running from Building 1 back to the pier becoming a true history park for the island, and it would be a tremendous destination for the Bay Area and the people in the Bay Area and worldwide, because that many people came to the island. There was over 130,000 on day one visiting the World's Fair.
We have to wrap it up at this point, but if viewers want to help in your project,
yes,
please, quickly, because I'll tell them how. You tell them how.
We're proposing to put the statue up and finance it completely with private money. We're going to be seeking donations. We're starting our fundraising campaign with the installation we completed last week at the City College, and people may contact us at area code 510-531-7766 or go onto our website at www.pacificstatue.org.
Or they can contact us or you through the Historical Society of Pacifica, and that brings us to the end of our time. Remember, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sands of time.